what I saw. I quite
Yeah,
enjoyed that.
well, yeah. Sometimes you want to build big shoes that you can grow into. You know what I mean? So you just want to put
That's
the shoes
right.
out there, and then you can grow into those shoes and say. So it's just something that I also said. You know what? What can I do, or what can I create for myself that I can grow into?
Yeah. No, I enjoy it. I enjoy it. I think at the end of the day, everyone's got to start somewhere, and I think I wish I'd started. How old were you when you started? Then you must have been still in nappies, I think.
20. I was. I was around 23. I was around 23 actually.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
so,
Yeah. I mean, I
so.
started when I was 26, so you've got 3 years on me, hey? And I was talking to some guys in the UK today, and they've got a young guy coming on board there who's 20, and they were like, "Wow, he's
Wow.
still young and he's still green behind the ears." And I said, "Yeah, but I mean, what an awesome experience he's got to get involved in property over there now at such a young age, and
100%.
learn the skills of entrepreneurship and running a business and working hard to." To create something special for you rather than for someone else. So I think it all works hand in hand at the end of the day. Hey?
100%, 100%. Okay, so we're live. I think people are going to be joining us now. And then, guys
Super.
who just joined us, you're on the right webinar. I'm with Tom today. We're going to be talking about cracking the UK property investing market. And let us know, guys, where you guys are watching from, as we always do. We always want to have like a very interactive webinar. I know you guys caught us already on a conversation here. Me and Tom was talking about, starting investing in property in your youth, which is something I always stress out. Actually, we get a lot of people who are saying, I'm 19, I'm 17, I want to start investing. I'm like, guys, I want to mentor a 19 or 17-year-old millionaire. So please, just if you're 19 years old or you're 18 and you want to get started, I would say that please get in contact with us on this. Let us help you get started in investing in real estate. So you're on the right webinar, guys. And it's always good to have you guys. Hi, gentlemen. Okay, just Jan. Jan is from Kimberley. Jan, it's good to have you on the webinar. And also, Jan is also one of our regulars here. I think some of the people, as we're starting at 12, are going to be using African time. So we value you guys who already on time today. And, you made it early. And we're going to try to add as much value as we can on today's webinar. And let us know what you guys are excited to learn about. Let us know what you guys are excited to learn about. I see Precious also, she's here. Precious, let us know where you're watching from. Let us know where you're watching from, and so we can welcome you also. Let me know if it's your first time joining us today for the webinar, and then so we can be able to welcome you also on the webinar. So we will be talking about how to crack the UK property market, and also how to invest in the UK if you're South African. What do you need to get started? And these are some of the things I'm curious about. I used to read a lot about it in the Real Estate Investor magazine, actually, before I got started. I bought a copy every month when I bought groceries. So I see like offshore, this and the other. I'm like, how does somebody get, involved in this stuff? So Sean is going to be telling us a little bit about that today. And, it's going to be making it easy for us. He's been doing a lot of coaching, and we're going to learn about him and what he does. They're doing some incredible stuff at Wolf Track. And I hope you guys are excited to join us today and learn from Sean. And also you have your questions ready, the burning questions. So guys, welcome. And then we're going to be starting in a moment. I think that also, let me just check on YouTube if we're getting people who started there. So we're going to be starting in a few, guys, and thank you guys for coming early. I think that some of the guys are going to be joining just now, I'm sure in like 4 minutes or so. And then let us know what you guys are excited to learn about. Let us know what you guys are excited to learn about today. Let us know so we can make sure that we touch on that, and we also get your questions answered, because this is where you get your questions answered. Every Thursday we're here with real estate investors, experts, and we also have finance experts who come here, and they let us know how you can be able to invest in real estate, how you can be able to get your property finance going, and which is something that is very, very important there. So guys, let us know where you guys are watching from, and then I will also be letting everybody, I think everybody's going to also be joining us in a few. All right, Sean. So it seems like we started a little bit early today, and people use African time in South Africa. So this is not the Eastern time or the UK time. What time do you guys use in the UK? Is it the Eastern or?
No, I think it's British Standard Time. So British Standard Time is in their summertime, which they are currently experiencing, which is colder than our winter time actually. They will be an hour behind us at the moment, whereas in the over winter time, when daylight savings taken away, they're 2 hours behind us.
No, 100%, 100%. No, I definitely understand. Okay, welcome, guys. If you just joined us, let us know where you guys watching from, and then so we can welcome you directly. Here with Sean today, we're going to be talking about cracking the UK property investing market, and welcome you at the right webinar. So we're about to begin. We're just giving people who are, as I said before, coming on the African time to join us also. And then, we're going to be starting in a few more minutes. Otherwise, I see somebody's raising their hand. I don't know who's that. Oh, that's Howard. Oh, hi, Howard. How are you? You can send us a message on the chat box. It's good to have you. It's good to have you. Did you want to say something? Today we're not having a quality show, but we will let you just say hi a bit. It's good to have you guys here. And I think we're going to be starting in the next 2 more minutes. Just saying hi, 100%. It's good to have you, man. It's good to have you. And thank you for joining us today. So we're going to be just starting in a few more minutes, and you guys are on the right webinar. So me and John are going to be talking about how to get started in the UK property market. This is something I'm interested in very deeply, and I know that a lot of people in my community also asked about it. This was one of our most anticipated webinars that we had, and I'm pretty sure that we're going to be having a lot of people who are joining us for this session. However, I think we're going to be starting just to respect some time, and then some people are going to be joining us as we go. All right, so before we start, I wanted to say the chat box. The chat box is for obviously letting us know where you guys are watching from, and then I'll also have to repeat this to other people who are going to be joining us a little bit later. But I think it's much important to say that. And then also, if you have any technical issues, anything like that, you can't hear us, or there's anything that happens in between the webinar, leave that in the chat box, and then we can be able to get back to you on that. And then the second thing is obviously the Q&A box that we have here is for the Q&A. Let us know if you have any questions about anything we're talking about, or anything specific you want to ask about on the Q&A. I think that is very, very important that you use the Q&A box, and then that you are able to ask the questions that you have in the Q&A box. And then one more thing, I think Sean has an ebook guide that is going to be sending and sharing with you guys. Sean, would you please share the ebook in the chat box? Then you guys can be able to get a hold of the ebook that's going to be teaching you guys exactly how to get started and answer some of the questions that we could not answer today. And then also, if you haven't got our free ebook, I think it's about time. I'm also going to be sharing with you guys the ebook. Now, I think that you must look into that and invest in yourself, guys. A lot of people, actually, today in the morning, I got a message from some people in our group community that were telling us that, look, the lockdown has been a blessing in disguise for them, because now they've got time to invest in themselves, read a lot of books, attend sessions like this that we have on a weekly basis, and actually get to increase their knowledge about the property investing market and exactly what happens in the property market. So welcome guys. If you just joined us, just let us know where you guys are watching from, and so we can welcome you today. We're going to be talking about getting started and cracking the UK property investing market with Sean today. So let us know where you guys are watching from in the comments. As you guys always know, we have very, very interactive webinars here, and then I see familiar names and I would say familiar faces, but there's no faces here today. So let us know you guys are watching from the chat box, and then we're going to be starting just in a moment. And then, as I was saying, we're going to be using the Q&A box for questions. If you have any questions, please type in the questions inside the chat box, put them in the Q&A box so we can be able to get to the questions, and then be sure that we answer all the questions that you guys have. And also use the chat box to let us know where you guys are watching from, any technical issues or anything else. And then so we can welcome you also if it's your first time joining us today. So we can be able to welcome you. Okay, we see Maureen saying, Maureen from Pretoria. Okay, we have Pretoria in the house. Welcome, Maureen. And we have Saul from Mabopan. Okay, Saul, welcome, man. And thank you for joining us today. Otherwise, let's just get started, guys. Today I'm with Sean today. Sean Thomson has been investing in the property in the UK for the past 15 years using various strategies. He's invested in Bentley, Liverpool, London, and parts of Wales, opting for strategies from buy-to-let to flipping to social housing and lease options. And he's actively grown his property portfolio in South Wales, focusing on commercial and development strategies. Like many, he started small, but today he's a confident investor, a property mentor, and an international speaker. So he had the privilege to mentor and train more than 7,000 people on investing in property in the UK since 2007, and predominantly in the UK. And most recently started, to coach people in the South African property investors, and so who don't want to leave this beautiful country. So Sean today is going to be joining me, and we're going to be talking about how to crack the property investing market in the UK. And I'm very, very excited to have Sean today so we can learn from his wealth of experience. Sean, it's good to have you today, and welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ezra. Obviously, great to great to be here, and really looking forward to our chat over the next hour or so. It's going to be fun, I'm sure.
100%. So, Sean, for those who don't know you, can you let us know about who is Sean, and obviously how did you get into real estate investing?
Yeah, sure, no problem. I mean, I like many of you guys went to school, was told to go to university afterwards, went to university, studied something I wasn't too keen on, but did it anyway because that's what I was told, and then went at the start of the millennium, caught an aeroplane across to the UK to go and seek fame and fortune, and found myself working for a newspaper company called the Daily Mail. And probably 6 months into that job, Ezra realized that this wasn't what I wanted to be doing for the rest of my life. And it sometimes takes a bit of that sort of pain to really resonate. And it was the end of 2003, really, that I was back here in South Africa over Christmas time in the beautiful warm weather, spending time in my Speedo, as you do. And, I had that countdown having to go back to the UK where it was cold, dark, miserable, back into a job that I wasn't really too keen on. And it was at the airport, I picked up at OR Tambo, a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which I'm sure a lot of your listeners have read. And that really, really inspired me, in terms of taking some steps towards building my own financial future and building my own business moving forward. And sort of 6 months after that, they say, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I found myself in a room in London, and there was a guy called Mark, who's I call him my rich dad effectively. And he really kicked off my property journey, and started off, like you said, buying property up in Burnley. Sort of really cheap buy-to-let property, use credit cards and all sorts of ways to raise money to get started. But the long and short of it was 18 months after that, I was able to go into property full time and sack my boss effectively at the Daily Mail, which was fantastic. And then from there, it started to evolve. And like we were talking about before your listeners came on, the success that I had property-wise, effectively, I think it's always important to have that want to give back once you've had success. Sort of 2007, 2008, I sort of started mentoring other clients, which was absolutely awesome. Had the ability to go and really get stuck into helping them get their businesses started. Around about 2010, started speaking. So been very privileged to speak all around the world, mainly in the UK, but in mainland Europe, down in Australia, here in South Africa. But I still felt something was missing sort of 2015. And, my wife and I made a big decision to move back to South Africa. So we live in Plettenberg Bay at the moment. End of 2016, we moved back. And then at the end of last year with my best mate, we started Wealth Track, which was really a company focused on helping South Africans move capital into the UK, sort of on a two-tier basis, educating them to understand more about the UK market, but also introducing them to third-party service providers in the UK who are trustworthy, vetted, compliant, and so on and so forth. And because I've had 16 years of growing a network over there, that's been relatively easy to get the right people to work with our students moving forward.
100%, 100%. So one of the things that we always have as property investors or entrepreneurs are, there's always a struggle before, when you're starting out. And also, I'm always curious about, what are some of the struggles that you had when you were starting out in your property journey, and how did you get over that?
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of struggles. The idea versus the reality of being a business owner, a property investor, Ezra, I'm sure you'll know, are two completely different things. There's a lot of hard work, there's a lot of hustling, there's a lot of late nights, there's lots of, there is work involved. So, the first 12 months of me making that decision to get into property, which was in June of 2004, those first 12 months, they felt like 12 years, to be honest. We were investing 5-6 hours away from where we were living in London. We knew that we couldn't afford to buy property in London, so we had to really branch out and look at other parts of the UK. So the sort of travel to get into our investment area regularly enough to be able to get to know the estate agents and get to know the builders, the tradesmen, and so on and so forth, that was massively challenging. And finance was also a big block. We're talking about age-wise. You've got 3 years on me. I was 26 when I got started, and getting taken seriously by people when I was that age, I had my own mental block with that. So I had to get over myself. And I think one of the things that really set that apart was the idea of learning, was the idea of getting knowledge, and then being able to communicate with people on a certain level. I'll never forget, about 10 months into my journey, talking to a landlord. We were looking to buy multiple properties off, and I had an almost out-of-body experience looking down at what I was talking to this guy about, and the sense that was coming out of my mouth. I was blown away by the fact that, that I was talking sense. And I still remember he said to me, he said, how long have you been in property for? It sounds like years. And I've only been in property for 10, 11 months. I didn't say that. I just said for quite some time. But, it was the fact that I'd learned of others that had been there, done it. I've been mentored, coached to really understand the game. And I think the other thing was also finance. Being South African in the UK, being able to raise finance to get into property deals. We used all sorts of different strategies and techniques. That wasn't easy, but once we got those first couple of deals off the ground, that's when things really kick-started on that side. So a lot of challenges, but you've got to find a way around it, over it, under it, through it. You find a way to keep moving forward and turn that red light into a green light. That was always the goal from our side of things when we got started.
100%. So one of the things that you put emphasis on is coaching. Me and you were just discussing before we started how, it had like an impact in both our lives. But I wanted for you to just tell us a little bit about why do you think, or how important is coaching when it comes to real estate investing, or when it comes to property, or just being an entrepreneur in general? How do you think is important, actually?
No, I think it's vital. I think certainly at the start of your journey, I always say that the most mistakes you can make is when you get started, and that's when you're most at risk to that happening. So provided you've got the right coach on board who's got experience, who's done deals, okay, who can point you in the right direction, and tell you, rather than go this way, you need to go this way in order to achieve your goals. What that's going to do for you is it's going to save you a lot of time. So rather than make a mistake, and when you're doing property investment, at the end of the day, you're not dealing with a few thousand rand, a few £1,000. You're dealing with hundreds of thousands of rands or pounds moving forward. So a mistake can really hold you back for a long period. So I think it's vital. In fact, I still get coached, and I still think that keeps me fresh, keeps another set of eyes looking down and looking into what I'm doing. It gives me new ideas, that I can capitalize on moving forward. So whether you are starting off, or even if you've got some experience, there's always another way to do things, and that is what an experienced coach who's been there, done it, got the t-shirt, can really help and guide you with. And ultimately, what they do for you is save you time. And at the end of the day, you can make money, but you can't make time. And if you've got someone who can help you save time, that is a good coach who's going to help you do that, is absolutely vital.
100%. So I have a list of questions I want to ask you today, and we're going to be going through that. But this is one of most of our anticipated webinars that we had in our community, because a lot of people were looking forward to it. But right now in South Africa, we're currently on the level 3, and it's been like that for a while right now. At least the rest of the industry is back on the market. People are moving down a bit. There's a lot of deals that are getting done. See construction sites, people are getting to be on constructions. We are also getting some of our projects getting started on the ground now. However, a lot of people are realizing the reality that you have to build sort of a pandemic-proof business, and it also looks like right now you have to build also load-shedding-proof business that is going on. Actually, I thought it was only in South Africa, but I spoke to a friend yesterday in India. They also had like a power cut. And then another friend in the Philippines, they said they had a power cut too. So I don't know if this is a global pandemic also, and global load shedding at this point. But some of the things I want us to discuss today is, decoding the property market. Just explaining a little bit about, what is the UK market entails, and obviously how COVID-19 has affected that. And also, how can somebody get back finance in South African while not living in the UK, because that's something you also teach. And I think it'll be very, very important for us to learn how that works. And also some of the common mistakes that you guys are seeing investors do when they're entering the market, in the UK property market, especially when they come from South Africa, because we in South Africa, we also make some mistakes. But now I'm seeing companies like Settle, I'm seeing companies like Select Properties, or like, a lot of UK student accommodation companies that come in South Africa. And what are some of the mistakes that you guys are seeing down there? But before we get into that, I just want to ask you one question that says, can South Africans get lending in the UK? Actually, that's a main thing that I wanted to ask.
Yes, okay. So I was frantically writing down because there were 3 questions in that last paragraph over there. I want to make sure I hit them all, but I'm sure we'll get to each of them. So if we start off with the finance element, Ezra, South Africans can get lending. So I think there are a couple of things that need to be addressed. Okay, the first thing is what you invest through. So what structure are you going to be buying property through? If you're buying in your own name, okay, you won't get funding. Okay, so effectively banks are going to want you to invest through a structure, and there are many different types of structures you can invest through in the UK. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is what you really need in the UK is a good broker. So, we call them bond originators here in South Africa, but a good mortgage broker in the UK is going to be crucial. If you think right, you hop onto Rightmove, which is the equivalent of Property 24 over here, and you find a property that you want to buy, and you ring up a main bank over there, Barclays Bank you would have heard of before, or HSBC, and you say, look, I've seen this cracking deal, I'd like you to give me finance. The first thing they're going to ask is where do you reside? And if you tell them you live in South Africa, they're going to tell you to bugger off, unfortunately. So structure's important, okay? And a broker is important. Now, the broker needs to be a couple of things. The first thing the broker needs to be is independent. So they're not tied to one particular bank. There are hundreds of lending options in the UK. You want your broker to be able to access all of the banks, all of the lending products available. So they're not tied to 1 or 2 lenders or tied to a certain amount of the market. They're independent, can access the whole of the market. The second thing that you want that broker to be is someone who specializes on foreign national and expat finance. So what is a foreign national? A foreign national would be a South African with a green mamba passport, and that's all they've got. Okay, they don't have any ties to the UK whatsoever. An expat, to keep it nice and simple, would be someone potentially who's a dual national, so has a British passport and a South African passport, or has just a British passport, but there's some link effectively to the UK. So if you get the right, and I use the word bespoke, you get the right broker on board, who specializes in foreign national and expat finance, and you've got the right structure set up in the UK, yes, our students can and have been getting lending. So it's important, again, and I'll talk a lot about the team in the UK. That's what we've really got, and what we've set up through my experience in the UK of 16 years investing is a crack team to be able to help a tricky customer, someone who's not from the UK, someone who doesn't live in the UK, leverage the bank's money to help them build their property portfolio moving forward.
100%. But I can see that the structure is a little bit similar, but it's because of, there's other parties involved. Like as you said, you need an independent broker, and then you need to know that this person is specifically dealing with foreign nationals and things like that. It seems like there's a little bit of a difference also on the structure that's going on. So how's that lending market differ from the SA market actually in the UK?
Well, the difference there are a couple of differences really. First of all, they're not just 6 main banks. Like I've mentioned already, there's hundreds of different lending options out there. So that's the first thing. But the two key things that allow you to build a portfolio in the UK, which are massively exciting, and it's something we talk about on our UK Discovery series, which is a 4-part sort of 2-hour training we take people on discovering a bit more about the UK. The first thing is the interest-only finance element. So in the UK, what you can do, and which I would say the majority of people in the UK investment-wise do, is you're able to get your bonds or your mortgages, if you like, on interest only right from the start. So that allows you to be able to create cash flow from day one. So that's crucially important from my perspective. When I got trained, one of the first things that my rich dad, who taught me initially, one of the first things he said was income generating assets. You want those assets to be generating income from day one. So the first thing is the ability to get cash flow from day one through an interest only bond, which is huge. And ultimately what investors want is their money as cheap as possible. And at the moment, the repo rate, or the base rate they call in the UK, is 0.1%. It's the lowest it's ever been in history. So money is cheap. When money is cheap, borrow, okay? And ultimately, we can get that property putting money into your pocket from day one, provided you buy the right properties in the right area. The second thing, which is key, Ezra, is refinancing the asset. So the ability to be able to buy something that, and we strongly focus on buying distressed property or properties you can add value to. I know that's part of a lot of what you talk about as well. When you're buying a house, there's got to be a way to add value to that property, and ultimately to be able to make money. So you buy it for the right price, and there's got to be the ability that uplift in value. So in the UK, what you can do is you can buy a distressed property, okay? And obviously, I've always thought, the wealth rules we talk about, rule number 1 is you make your money when you buy. So you buy it for the right price and something you can add value to. You refurbish or develop that property, okay? And so long as you've owned the property for 6 months, what you can then do is refinance that property at the higher value. So whatever that house is worth in good condition, you can refinance the asset, you can repay the existing lending on it, and you've then got some of your money back, your initial capital back, okay, within a 6-month period to help you build that property portfolio. So 2 key differences there is refinancing, from month 6 effectively, which helps you build your portfolio, helps you put money in, increase value, refinance, take money back out again. So that money in, money out scenario. And then the interest only funding, which gets you into a position to be able to produce cash flow pretty much immediately on your portfolio.
One of the things that you mentioned that was key was, making cash flow from day one. And cash flow can only be done if you buy the property right. Actually, that's something that you just mentioned. So how does one find the good deals being like, this far away from the UK at this point?
Yes, it's a great question because, because there are websites, Rightmove, that's very similar to Property 24, Zoopla, also very similar to Property 24, on the market again. So there are lots of these sites where you can hop onto, you can look at property from distance, but ultimately all those sites are estate agents putting retail properties up, advertising retail properties for sale. So what we link our students, our advanced students up with, okay, are something called sourcing agents. And sourcing agent effectively, you get them here in South Africa as well, obviously, is rather than work for the seller like an estate agent does, estate agent ultimately, gets paid commission here, a lot of commission in South Africa compared to the UK, by the way. I think it's 6-7% is the norm over here. In the UK, you're looking at 1 to 1.5%. So completely different model when it comes to, looking to sell property. So ultimately, estate agent works on behalf of the seller, is motivated to sell the property for as much as possible to be able to earn as much commission. Whereas a sourcing agent is different, where they act on behalf of the investor. And they go out with the understanding of what the investor's strategy is, what returns they're looking for, what cash flow they're looking for, and effectively go and look for properties that suit and meet the investor's requirements. So ultimately what you're doing is you're leveraging someone else's time who's on the ground, who would do what you would normally do if you were doing property full time, but lived, in the same country that you were investing. So, they'll be visiting estate agents, they'll be viewing properties, they'll be having advertising, out there social media wise, or, in some of the local newspapers, they'll be doing leaflet drops, they'll be doing all of the marketing that they can potentially do to find properties, negotiate deals. So a sourcing agent ultimately should bring you a negotiated deal, and email you a deal sheet, which effectively gives you all the research they've done on that property, what they've agreed to buy the property for, what the value of that property is going to be in good condition, what refurbishment is required. So they'll list how much is required, and what needs to be done to the property to bring it back up to scratch. So a sourcing agent is one thing, Ezra. The other thing is just to understand that in the UK now, and this is a big tip for all of your listeners here this afternoon, is that sourcing agents need to be compliant. So they need to have undertaken a certain number of things, property ombudsman registration as example, as one of the things that need to be done. In order to be able to receive a commission, just like an estate agent would, a sourcing agent now needs to do exactly the same thing in the UK. So a big tip for your listeners here is utilizing a compliant sourcing agent to go and hunt for deals on their behalf.
100%, 100%. So if you say coupling your sourcing agent and you're having a property coach, so your sourcing agent finds the deal, and then you have a coach who helps you go through the deals. So now you're minimizing the risk so you can be able to find the right properties, you say. Yeah,
you hit the nail on the head there. At the end of the day, you want a coach next to you. You want to have gone through a certain level of education to know how to run the due diligence, know how to research a property. I say this quite regularly. In fact, on my social media posts just the other day, there are good sourcing agents and there are dodgy sourcing agents out there. So don't be the challenge is people think, sourcing agent, they go and Google sourcing agents, and they'll find potentially people who say that they have got the necessary compliance but don't, and they end up getting fancy brochures with fancy figures and deals that look absolutely awesome, and they end up buying that property, but they haven't had the education or a coach next to them to ultimately help them with the due diligence and understand how to research a property correctly. So I always say you've got to research the research, if that makes sense. Even if it's a great sourcing agent bringing you a deal, you investing your money into purchasing and refurbishing that property, ultimately what you want to be able to do, okay, is understand that the property is a deal. That's not just something that looks fantastic, but it is really a deal. So I always say research the research, 100%.
Yeah, so I just wanted to also ask, do you advise people buying from, new development, or should they buy from existing properties? And then the last thing I wanted to add is, how do you deal with property management, especially if you from a distance, exactly?
Great. So two great questions. So the first thing is new builds. I mean, I've seen a lot of people here in South Africa purchasing new build developments, normally in city centres over in the UK. The likes of Birmingham and Manchester and London. The challenge with new builds is, and we've discussed this already, is the ability to add value isn't there ultimately. So you're purchasing something brand new, and it's a retail product. So someone else has made the money, and the person who's made the money is the developer ultimately. The person who's done the development is the one who's going to profit from that moving forward. Now, if you're not able to refinance and get your money out of that deal, what you're ultimately relying on, okay, is the market going up in value over time. Now, that is speculation. I'm sure, Ezra, you would agree with me that 12 months ago, no one foresaw that we'd be in lockdown for 6 months, 6 months of the year or whatever that we've had over the last, last 4 or 5 months that we've been in lockdown effectively. I forget now how long we've been in lockdown because it feels like forever. So as much as you can use research to look at the market, you can look at the fact that the UK market property values double on average since records have begun every 7 to 10 years. You can't really make investment decisions on what may or may not happen to the market because things may happen that we can't foresee moving forward. So for me, I've never bought a new build. I never push our students towards buying new build properties. Ultimately, you've got to buy the property, A, for the right price, and B, you've got to be able to add value to that property to allow you to be able to get some of your money back when you refinance within 6 months. I think the challenge is that a lot of these guys, what happens is they will go to these so-called guys who've got links with developers in the UK. What they'll do is they'll go to one developer and they'll say, right, we've got 50 people who want to buy the 50 flats that you got for sale here. If you can give us a perceived discount, we'll take all 50 flats off your hands. So this guy then goes to all the investors here in South Africa and says, right, there are 50 flats over here. In fact, there was something on Carte Blanche not too dissimilar on Sunday night, but it was in Mozambique, not in the UK. And he says, right, we've got these 50 flats available now. And the 50 people buy the 50 flats, put 50 flats onto the market for rental. And, simple law of economics, supply and demand. If 50 two-bed flats come on the market, that's going to negatively impact rental prices. So half of those people end up trying to sell their flats because they can't rent them out. That then negatively impacts the values then moving forward as well. So for me, I stay away from new build, and I suggest all the listeners on this call spread the word. Go and find something you can add value to. That's the way to make money in property ultimately. Management agents, Ezra, a hell of an important part of the puzzle, and really buying property in the UK is very much about putting a puzzle together moving forward because it is challenging. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. It's a big motivation behind why we started Wealth Track, was to educate and to effectively find the right third-party service providers that our students could link in with to be able to build this property portfolio moving forward. And a management agent is key. Okay, so you want someone managing your tenants moving forward. The great thing about tenancy law in the UK is it does side with the landlord, not with the tenant. So it's a first world country. There's a clear legal process to follow if there are tenants who don't pay rent. And we do go into more depth on this on the trainings that we offer. So I think that's the first thing. The other thing, I'll give your listeners some tips here. If you're looking for a really, well, for a letting agent or a management agent that's going to be a cut above the rest, have a look at their accreditations and who they're accredited to. So there are two bodies in the UK, the National Association of Estate Agents, the NAEA, National Association of Estate Agents, as well as ARLA, the Association of Residential Letting Agents, which would be a base level I'd be looking for. Are they accredited to at least those two bodies? It doesn't necessarily make them a good letting agent. So they do have some exams that need to be, written and have to have gone through by people within that letting agent. However, the exams are so easy, Ezra. Even you know, my mother-in-law's cat could pass the exam. So it's not like it's a stringent set of difficult exams they've got to go through. It's a fairly easy process, but at least there is a body that they are affiliated with. So it's a start, I would say, but it doesn't necessarily make them fantastic letting agents, if that makes sense.
100%, 100%. So COVID-19 has affected everything and all how we knew how we did business before. Things are changing daily, and we're just taking it, you know, a day at a time. So my question would be, you know, how has COVID-19 or, you know, Brexit impacted the market in the UK at this point?
I mean, it's been interesting. You know, it's been a part of history that I never thought that I would go through anything like lockdown. We were in the UK at the end of January. Luckily, well, we got back February time, so we got back down just pre-lockdown, which was great. We've been in Plett rather than in Wales. I've got a home in Wales as well as over here in South Africa. So in terms of what's happened to the market, I believe that what COVID-19 was very much a pause, not a full stop. So everything basically just has paused for a certain period of time. But what has happened in the UK has been significant. The first thing has been government intervention. The government has been absolutely incredible in terms of the amount of money they've pumped back into the system to help ordinary people in the UK. So there has been the furloughing scheme, which means the government has covered up to 80% of people's wages, and that's going to run until the end of August. So that's one thing. There's been business interruption loans, COVID business interruption loans that have been set up for medium-sized businesses. There's been business bounce back loans that have been set up for small businesses. So they've pumped billions and billions of pounds into stimulating the economy then moving forward. The UK market, well, the English market opened 7 or 8 weeks ago. So obviously during COVID, there's been a bit of a price drop, and I'm always a big advocate. I like it when prices drop because ultimately that means more cash flow, if that makes sense. You're able to buy something at the bottom rather than at the top. There's an opportunity there moving forward. And I look at the fact why the UK is such a great opportunity now as well, is that, you know, we've had Brexit negotiations for 3 years over there. So 3 years of uncertainty means that prices have sort of dipped even over the last 3 years. And ultimately, actually, when the divorce agreement was signed between the UK and the rest of Europe at the end of last year, the UK experienced the strongest first quarter of house price growth in nearly a decade. So that was really, really positive from that perspective. But obviously, COVID has had an impact. And with the markets reopening 7 or 8 weeks ago in England, Rightmove, which we've mentioned already on the call here today, had more than 5 million hits on the day that the market reopened. Wow. So the sort of need or the want with people having been in lockdown to potentially move or upsize or sell property has been created. So there's all this pent-up demand that COVID effectively has created. Potentially people getting divorced, being stuck together, in lockdown for so long may be something else that has happened. And there's also been a 30 to 40% increase in rental inquiries. In fact, there's a chap I know very well in the Swansea market, a chap called Ben, who runs a letting agent in the UK. Post on LinkedIn yesterday. I know you're on LinkedIn, Ezra, I follow you. And he said that he had more than 40 inquiries for one property that they had on the market. And that's effectively what has happened. And the Welsh market only opened 2 weeks ago. So a lot of pent-up demand. But the fundamentals are strong in the UK. You look at the affordability of property. So if you take London to one side, most of the people who buy in London these days are not from London. It's a lot of overseas investments. So we don't really focus on the London market in terms of our students buying. We look at some of the cheaper areas. Wales is where we focus a lot of our students to get started. So affordability wise, property is really affordable. So what people earn versus the value of properties in these areas, money is cheap. Okay. Like we've discussed, supply and demand, the government is not building enough properties. They need to build 300,000 new homes on an annual basis now moving forward. So a lot of planning reforms coming into play. They're going to make it easier to get planning as an example, from turning commercial into residential property in the UK, where for some certain types of commercial property, you won't need planning permission to turn it into residential. So Boris Johnson announced some big measures that are going to be taking hold. There's going to be energy efficient grants up to £5,000 per property, which is coming to play in in September. So there's a lot of emphasis around the fact that the UK doesn't have enough property and needs a lot of property compared to the amount of people that are going into rented. They estimate 1.8 million more households will be in rented accommodation by the end of 2025. So a lot of opportunity, employment-wise, very strong. The least amount of people unemployed in the history of the UK at the present time. And life is slowly getting back to normal in the UK. Pubs are opening. Things are slowly but surely getting back to whatever normal is, Ezra. I'm not too sure, but maybe things will never be normal again. Who knows? But things are certainly starting to get back to something that resembles normal, if that makes sense.
100%. But what I just heard from you so far, you're just saying, look, this is a good time to invest. We're going to be seeing like world-class properties coming on the market, and also the funding is cheap. So let's say I'm somebody who's watching this right now. I'm like, okay, this is exciting. I can get a property manager, I can get a coach, sourcing agent. The market seems like it's picking up. That means there's going to be a lot of cash flow that's going on, and there's opportunity that's coming from obviously the uncertainty that's happening at this point. And I want to start investing. So what's the way forward in terms of pre-qualifications and obviously affordabilities that people require to get started? I'm just looking at the standard prices and numbers that somebody needs to be looking at from South Africa to the UK. So I don't know if you get my question there or if it's too vague.
Yes. I understand. Qualification-wise, I would say if you recognize, first of all, that you need to diversify your portfolio. I've never been someone who says don't invest in South Africa. I think that there's place for both. But if you see long-term, medium-term, long-term, or even short-term, the fact that it's important to start considering getting money out of South Africa. I'm a passionate South African. I want to be part of the future. I love living here. The last 3.5 years have been absolutely incredible being back here. So diversification is the one thing. The other thing is looking at, first of all, looking at property as an asset class. So do you recognize the fact that property as an asset class is important? And do you see the UK as a market that you want to invest your money in? I love the UK market because I'm not having to cross time zones to get to, America. I'm on a flight 10.5 hours later. I'm in the UK. There's an hour's difference at the moment. I can pretty much hit the ground running. So if you tick those boxes, diversification, if you tick the fact that property is what you want to invest in, the UK market's where you want to invest, I would say in terms of capital, if you have a minimum of 500K that you want to move into the UK to get started, not necessarily your own money, Ezra, or if you have the ability to raise that type of money, you've got a backer, you've got an angel investor, someone along those lines who you can work with. Those would be the sort of minimum requirements to move into the UK that I would suggest. Okay. The other thing I would say, obviously, is you need a trusted partner that you can work with. There are challenges between South Africa, buying property between South Africa and the UK. We've mentioned some of them here today, getting finance, investing through the right structure. The taxation is quite favorable because there's a double taxation treaty that exists between South Africa and the UK, but getting the right accountant, tax advisor, all of these people in terms of getting the team together is effectively what we help students to do through the process that we guide you through. So I think the team and education, coupled with what I've already spoken about, is crucially important to helping you set your UK property business up.
100%. No, I think you answered that correctly. So we have like 4 more minutes, and then before we open up our Q&A, I just want to ask I'm not sure if it's a rumor, but a friend of mine, I was sitting with a friend of mine, he's from London, and he was telling me that there's a possibility of a lifetime loan instead of a 30 years or 20 years that they're considering. So I'm not sure how valid is that, where you can pass the bond to your kids, and then everybody can pay it as it goes on. Do you know anything about that at this point?
I don't actually, but there are very favorable inheritance tax tax regulations that are being set up. So there is inheritance tax is favorable if you set things up in the right way. There's also the ability to gift assets. So you're able to gift your assets further down the line if that's something that you want to look at. And once again, I would always suggest, seeking professional advice. But when it comes to loans and stuff, there are interest-free loans available to do refurbishments on property in the UK. Down in Wales, as an example, there's the Houses into Homes loan scheme, which is 0% for up to 5 years, and they'll lend you up to £25,000 to refurbish a property over there. They will take some level of security on assets that you hold within the UK or a property that you're buying, but there are a lot of favorable things for investors to be able to help supply the amount of property that's going to be required on a very small island. If you look at the size of the UK versus the size of South Africa with similar populations, and where the UK is in the amount of influx of people into the UK, there is a massive opportunity for foreign investors moving forward. In fact, I'm just going to put a little, I've got a free guide like we spoke about. I'm going to chuck that into the chat box over there. We do discuss a little bit more about that on our free guide. So if anyone wants that free guide, by all means, download that on the link over there, and can give you guys a little bit more information from that perspective.
100%. So before we conclude, can you tell us a little bit about Wealth Track and how do you guys help, this whole process become much easier for South Africans who are looking to get started and diversifying into the UK?
Yes, Ezra. I mean, we've simplified the process effectively. So we run a 4-day discovery series, which looks at a number of things. It looks at concepts that are different between South Africa and the UK. It looks at running cash flows and returns, so understanding the way people look at property in the UK. We look at finance, we look at working with sourcing agents, look at due diligence on properties. We look at different cash flowing strategies, so buy-to-let being one, social housing being another one, where you can get the government to guarantee the rent on a property for you for certain periods of time if you structure the deals up correctly, which is very exciting. We look at houses of multiple occupation, which is more than one person living in a property but sharing kitchens and bathrooms. We look at flipping properties, and then looking at how to move money into the UK. Now, one thing Tito Mboweni, our esteemed finance minister, I'm a big fan of Tito, is he's made it a lot easier for South Africans to financially immigrate but to stay in the UK, which I think is a very smart move. So he's recognized the fact that South Africans want to live here but potentially want to move money across. So moving money into the UK, how do you do that? What are you allowed? What are your individual and foreign allowances that that you can start moving money into the UK, and how to do that? And then we also look at structures. So that's the initial discovery series, which we've taken online. It used to be a 1-day live training, but we've now, with the advent of COVID, like a lot of people have done, we're probably going to leave it online because we've had a fantastic response to it. So that's the start of the journey. Moving forward from there, we take them through a lot more sort of advanced concepts, third-party service provider introductions to the right letting agents, the right sourcing agents, and we really get them into a position, a quantifiable process, if you like, where they've got a business set up in the UK and they are earning a foreign passive income and investing their money into a first world country. So that's effectively what we do through the whole process, which would probably take you the best part of 6 months to get through.
100%. So I think that if people need to get in touch with you about that, they can just contact you. Is there anything that you can leave with us here? Some email or maybe a website?
Yeah, website is just, I'll chuck that into the chat box very quickly. It's very simple. It's just wealthtrack.co.za. So I'm going to put that in there. It's difficult for men to do 2 things at once. I'm also going to chuck in over there some of our social media handles. So guys, if you want to follow us on social media, by all means do. We're very active on social media in terms of posting sort of tips and hints and how to get started from that perspective. So a number of ways there. The free guide would be one, website as well as social media to see a bit more about what we do and how we can help you we spoke about vision or dreams, turn that into something that's going to be real moving forward.
100%, 100%. So one more question, and then we're opening up the Q&A. So if Sean had a superpower, what would it be?
Sure.
Leaving the difficult one for the last. Eh?
Yeah, that's not a question I've ever been asked. So thank you. I appreciate the question. So if I had a superpower, what would it be? I think it would be the ability to travel back in time, because
wow.
I think when I look at what I've done, yes, I've made mistakes. I'm not perfect. I'm just a simple guy from Nelspruit who went to the UK. I'm still learning in property, but there probably are certain things and certain mistakes that I made that I wish I could travel back to and advise myself slightly differently, the younger me, if you like. So I think traveling back in time, you can't make time, you can make money. Okay. So I think if that was a superpower on offer, I'd grab that with both hands, 100%.
No, I definitely understand. Okay, so now we're going to be opening up for the Q&A. I see that a lot of people are asking us questions. So first of all, we see Winnie. Winnie's asking, if you can use your name, which name can you use? I think that's the first question that they have there.
Sorry, can you repeat that? If I'm going to use a name?
Oh, so I think she means that when you mentioned that when you buy a property in the UK, you're not going to get a finance if you're using your name. So she's saying, which name can you use?
Oh, no. So Winnie, what I'm saying is don't buy in your own personal name, okay? Not saying buy in someone else's name. You can't say, right, I don't want to buy in Winnie's name, I want to buy in Ezra's name. What you want to do is buy through a structure. So through company structure, limited liability structure. There are lots of different structures available. It's picking the right structure to be able to invest through. So it would be some sort of company structure that you want to invest through in the UK. And that structure needs to live in the UK. So, the registered address of that particular company needs to reside within the UK. We use our accountant's address in the UK as the registered address of the company. So yeah, 100%. You can't use someone else's name, but you want to invest in the structure, 100%.
Okay, so again, I think, Howard is asking a question saying, what loan to value will they land? Actually, that's a good question also.
Yeah, so that's a great question, Howard. It sort of is a two-part question, if you like, because when you set a new structure up in the UK to invest through, it's a brand new structure. It doesn't have any credit rating, doesn't have any credit score whatsoever. So that's the first thing I would say, is your structure that lives in the UK, ultimately it lives there for the purpose of getting you the necessary lendability and the credit score, if you like, that's going to be developed over time. So initially when you purchase, you're probably looking, we had our broker who is introduced to our students on a call on Monday, looking at what's currently available in the market. You're looking at somewhere in the region of 65 to 75%. Depending on what lender that you go with, depending on whether you're a foreigner, depending on whether you're an expat. So there's slightly more availability for expats rather than foreigners. So again, I talk about a puzzle that needs to be put together. A lot of it's determined by your own personal circumstances, which is important. So it normally takes, I would say, you obviously buying property through that structure. But once you've bought initial property through the structure, you're probably looking at a 12 to 24-month process where you submit annual financial statements for that structure. You've got a couple of properties now and some lending on those properties through the structure, which then is going to start to open up the availability of finance, okay, and increase your loan to values. Roughly, 75% is where the majority of the market's going to sit, but also decrease your lending rates. So when you buy initially within the first 2-year period, your interest rate, your lending rate may be in the region of 6%, whereas once your company's got a bit of credit scoring, can access more mainstream lending, you'll be looking in the region of 4.5% on an interest-only basis, which is not far off what residents in the UK would be able to get, and that's because you've got something that lives and breathes, a structure in the UK, which is developing its credit score, submitting annual financial statements to HMRC, which is the tax office over there, and effectively now has the credit scoring it needs to be able to access more mainstream lenders.
100%, 100%. So there's another question from Winnie. He's saying, what is Property 24 in UK called? I think it's Rightmove, right?
Rightmove is one of them, Winnie. The other one is Zoopla, Zoopla. And there's another one called On the Market, onthemarket.com. So those are three of the mainstream sites that estate agents, not sourcing agents, by the way, estate agents, like they do in Property 24, effectively are going to go and market their properties for sale.
Okay, so I see another question from Howard saying, I'm a developer in SA and we push the prices up over the development. Don't they do that in the UK? Could one not buy off plan at X, and once the development is done, it's worth X plus, and then refinance the property then? Okay.
No, Howard. Again, you know, you've got to look at the way in the UK, there's the person that goes to assess the property is called a surveyor, and a surveyor will assess for lending purposes if you're buying with lending and if you're refinancing with lending. So they don't look at a cost per square meter and look at what you bought for and look at what the property now might be worth. They look at what you've done to the property over that period of time to warrant the property being worth more. So unfortunately, in a 6-month period, you can't say, right, I bought it for this, but it's now worth 20% more, but I haven't done anything to the house. They're going to want to see that you've added value by new kitchens, new bathrooms, and it is really worth what you say it is now, or what you say it's worth there moving forward. So, you know, I certainly don't warrant the fact that in the UK buying at a perceived discount, you know, ultimately something that's brand new, that, you know, and you've paid X for it, that's what it's worth. It's not going to be worth more in 6 months' time. So the surveying process is very subjective. They err on the side of caution. And they're going to want to know that you've you bought it. They're going to know what you bought it for, but they're going to want to know what you've done to the property to warrant the higher value. And you know, by just buying something brand new at discount and refinancing for 20-25% more in 6 months' time, it's not going to happen. It's not going to be an agreeable situation for them. I can promise you that.
Then Howard is asking again, saying, are you expecting a lot of property to come onto market once all the help ends that the government is doing? So I think he's talking about the stimulus help, that billions that they're throwing into the economy in the UK also.
Well, at the moment, you know, it's Howard, isn't it? Sorry. Yeah. Howard, sorry. At the moment, Howard had his hand up, didn't he? That's right. Howard, at the moment, there's been a look at the Welsh market's been quite interesting because there've been a lot of people with the market only being open for the last 2 weeks, a lot of properties that are being sold for more, okay, and that's just down to the amount of people that are looking for properties to buy. So increased valuations. To give you an idea, there's a property I put onto the market pre-COVID. We looked at the valuation of being around about £125,000 during the COVID period, and it's just gone onto the market for £140,000. So a lot more people out there looking to buy rather than to sell at this present moment in time, but that's due to pent up demand. I think that's due to the fact that no one's been able to do anything for the last sort of 2-3 months when they ordinarily would have been buying property. So, you know, that's certainly the first thing. In the UK, sort of the rest of the UK, they've introduced stamp duty reforms. So they've increased the stamp duty thresholds now. You know, so that's obviously got people quite excited. That's been done by the government to stimulate the economy moving forward. So that's probably also a reason why a lot of people are looking to buy. So at the moment, the next 6 to 12 months, there will be opportunities to buy because there will be people looking to, certainly on the distressed property side, get rid of assets because of financial challenges. So there will be that sector of the market, but there's also the stimulation provided by the government where it might be quite a good market to flip in, certainly for the next 6 to 12 months with no stamp duty holidays coming into play. So stamp duty, is transfer duties, similar to transfer duties over here. So those sort of holidays being introduced for a certain period of time is there to stimulate things and get people buying again effectively.
100%. So we have another question from Howard asking, what do you charge for your help?
If you go and have a look on our site, Howard, we just finished a discovery series. So our discovery series, which is an introduction, is we sort of want to get the information out to as many people as possible. So that first 4 parts, we spend about 8 hours together. So each session is 1.5 hours to 2 hours. We give you a nice, good synopsis of the UK. Is charged at 997 Rand for that series. We've been able to heavily discount the prices due to the fact that, we don't have any costs to rent out hotels and flights and all that type of thing. Everything's now done online. And then we take you through what the next steps are going to be. There's obviously various options, but Howard, go and have a look on our website. The journey is pretty clearly defined over there in terms of what the Discovery Series is about, and when the next dates are going to be for that Discovery Series. And the other thing is then looking at what the next steps are and what's involved in terms of how we can do a lot of our sort of facilitation of introduction to people in the UK. We do all that virtually now. And there is then also the ability to tag on a buying trip. So our next buying trip in the UK is going to be September time, where we're actually taking investors over for a 2-day live experience where we go and take them around the houses, look at properties that are for sale, look at stuff that is on the market to buy, stuff that's mid-refurb. So we really get them stuck into looking at some of the houses there in Wales. They talk a bit funny there, but if you listen very, very intently, you can understand what they are saying. So the whole process on the website, Howard, follow our social media handles, have a look and see what, how we can help you moving forward.
100%. And then, so Howard was just commenting to say the link that you posted in the chat box does not work or does not open up. So I'm not sure which link exactly. Please just specify so Sean can be able to send it to you again. And then
sorry, off you go. Sorry, Ezra, I'll just double check.
There's another question that we just got from Africa GD. I'm not sure what his name is. He's saying, Sean mentioned aspiring UK property investors to start looking at raising 500K capital to invest in the market. Does this mean that WealthTrack does not help facilitate deals below 500K, say between 100K to 350,000 Rand?
We suggest that 500 is a good place to start, okay? And the reason why we say that is, generally speaking, that the properties, if you've got that amount of capital to get started, I'm just double checking on that guide for us, just chatting to the team there so we can make sure that guide is put up for you guys. I don't think it is working for some very odd reason, but we'll double check and make sure that it works for you guys in a second. So Africa GD, I think 500 capital 500K is a good place to start. The reason why is if you're buying a property for, in the region of 30 to 40,000 pounds, which generally is going to be the sort of marketplace that we focus on. So 30 to 40K, 5 to 15,000 on the refurb. So if you're getting lending on the purchase, you might be putting down around about 10,000 pounds as a deposit, your solicitor fees and so on and so forth. Looking at the 10 to 15 grand to do the work. You're going to need roughly 25 grand to do that first deal if you're starting on that entry level type of property. Now, what I would suggest you do if you're in a situation where, you've only got sort of 350 to get started, is try and find someone who you can work with, who potentially can open a company up within the UK. And you can both be directors within that company, and you both put a certain amount of money in to get you to the 500K, and then invest together from that perspective moving forward.
100%. And I think, thanks to you very much, Sean, for joining us today. And I think that will be the end of the questions. And I want to thank everybody else who joined us today for this session. And I want to tell you that you guys did a great job for joining us. We always have the sessions every Thursday. We're meeting up with real estate investing experts, and also we meet up with finance experts to discuss what's really going on in the market right now. So I also wanted to share an invite to you guys before I let Sean also, actually before I do that, I wanted to ask Sean, do you have any last words do you want to share with us before I share this an invite to this guys to join us for the
No,
event?
look, I want to say thank you very much, Ezra. We've got the team just working on that link there for us. If you hold on for 2 seconds, we can get that to you. I want to say thank you for the opportunity to come and have a chat with you. Obviously, we met on a real estate investor mag chat a couple of weeks ago, and you know, I was hugely impressed by the strides that you have made and how far you've come. And obviously that's why, you know, I was quite happy to come and have a chat with you to your community moving forward, because you know, it's people like you that inspire and light the flame of possibility in others, and I think that is positive. And I think the UK, really the UK as a marketplace for each and every one of you guys who are on the call today, is an opportunity, because there are, you know, fundamentals are strong in the marketplace. You know, provided you buy the right type of property with the right help, the right guidance, it is certainly something that can work for each and every one of you guys. So you know, follow the process, follow the system, and that's effectively what we offer through WealthTrack, is a process and a system. And it will work for each and every one of you guys. I'm just going to chuck in the new link over here for the free guide, ladies and gentlemen. So we've managed to get this sorted. So I do apologize for that. So have a look on that new one over there, which is wealthtrack.elitefunnels.com/ebook. We're just migrating from one service provider to the other. So that's why there's been a slight challenge. So thank you very much, Ezra. It's been awesome to be here to chat. Thank you for the great questions. And you know, anytime I can hop on and help in any way with what you're doing moving forward, I'd be happy to do that.
100%. Thanks a lot, Sean, for joining us today. What I'll do also is, the free guide, I'll also be sure that I can send it to everybody who attended today on their emails also, so they can be able to get that. And if you guys need any help, if you can't download it still, send us an email, and I'm happy to send you guys that. Otherwise, thank you guys for attending and joining us today. I also want to invite you guys to our event that we're going to be having, which is, you know, digitalization of real estate week, which is like an entire week where we're having like a lot of prop tech companies coming together. And then they're just coming together to just show you guys some tools that you can be able to use and digitalize your real estate businesses. Otherwise, I think this is very, very good opportunity for investors. And if you want to know more about it, I want you to go to our website. As you can see, if you go down here, you will see all the information about the digitalization of real estate week. So, which is going to be, you know, top 20 prop tech companies in South Africa coming together in 1 week, and it's going to be 5 days that is going to be powerful of tools, you know, different companies, and that's going to help you with administration, sales, and the entire process of your value chain. So, if you guys are interested on that, I'll go visit our website. That's www.ezracity.com. I'll also post it in the comments, and then you'll get more details on that there. Otherwise, we look forward to having you guys there, and I'm looking forward to having you guys next week. And thanks to everybody who attended. And Sean, thank you again. This is where we're going to be ending our webinar for today.
Super. Thank you, Ezra. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Eh?
All right. No problem. Bye-bye.